ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's spectacular episode of the Movie Theater Lobby. We'll be your announcers and hosts, Brandon
and Leah.
So, sit back and prepare to be enlightened as we dive into the thrilling, high-stakes world of television's golden age of game shows and scandal. A gripping tale of secrets and sensational trivia that rocked the nation's favorite pastime. Stay tuned as we journey through the colorful characters, the backroom deals, and the tension-filled moments that made history. That's right! We're talking about the one, the only...
Quiz Show! All coming up right after a message from our sponsors.
Geritol, America's #1 tonic. Geritol, the fast-acting high-potency tonic that helps you feel stronger, fast, presents the exciting quiz program, 21.
We got to welcome everybody to Quiz Show, right?
Yes.
This is our topic of the day, as you just so kindly pointed out for us. In the U.S., and I'm sure everywhere else across the world, they like to have a million little national blank day.
Yes.
Right? National Cupcake Day,
Yeah.
and National
Cat Day.
Cat Day, and National Wrap Yourself in a Blanket and Eat Some Bacon Day,
Yeah.
whatever.
Best day ever.
Best day ever. They still have yet to institute that one. Maybe we can petition them to get that done. However, recently, I believe just a few days before we're releasing this one, National Trivia Day
Woohoo.
is a thing.
January 4th?
January 4th. Correctamundo. So, only fitting.
In honor of
Quiz Show.
Quiz Show.
Yes, a movie all about a game show about trivia.
Yes.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about Quiz Show. For the people who haven't seen the movie, which, sort of similar to last week's episode, I feel we may have a lesser seen movie.
A lesser seen movie, also done set in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Also came out in 1994.
At the exact same time,
Yep.
basically.
Did not plan that.
No.
So hope you like 1950s style movies.
From the 90s. This is what we got for you,
This
folks.
is what we got for you. It is fitting for the subject matter.
It
though.
really
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do a little plot breakdown for those of you who haven't seen it, or for those who need a wee refresher.
2 players racing to score 21 points. Each in a soundproof television studio, not knowing the other one's score. With $500 riding on each point. As they both play 21.
As we mentioned, Quiz Show, a drama released in 1994. We see a really swell-looking Chrysler being shown to one Mr. Dick Goodwin, played by Rob Morrow, who is fresh out of law school and now working for the government. Then we'll come back to him a bit later. Now, we the viewers are treated to a jazzy montage as an envelope is very securely transported from a safety deposit box in a bank vault across town to the NBC studio.
Brought to you by NBC.
As excited fans and workaday schmoes gather around picture boxes all around New York City, every television is being excitedly tuned to the game show that has captured all of America's attention. 21! The studio announcer announces the host, Jack Barry.
Coming up next, 21, starring Master of Ceremonies, Jack Barry.
And then introduces us to the unstumpable Herbert Stemple.
So we'll find out in the next 30 minutes if the unstumpable Herbert Stemple can be stumped.
Played by John Turturro. Stemple hawks Geritol, the sponsor of 21, as Barry introduces the other contestant. As the banter continues, we get a cameo from a rather notable real-life director, acting as the Geritol representative, who calls the studio and insists,
I don't think he works anymore.
and insinuates that a change is needed. Behind-the-scenes wheels are already beginning to turn. While NBC machinates, we are next at a social meeting and book signing, as an elder Van Doren leads us to meeting his son, the very handsome Charlie Van Doren, played by Ralph Fiennes.
I'm Charlie. Pleasure.
As he sits enwrapped at a television, gazing in wonderment as Stemple answers with seemingly unknowable answers.
How did he know that?
At the studio, the producers produce, and it is decided Stemple is out. Stemple just doesn't know it yet. Carried home by a limo, the everyman contestant
Genius is home, the rich genius is home.
arrives to greet his ailing wife, Toby Stemple, played by Joe and Carlo. The duo celebrate another Stemple win and dance in their living room, blissfully unaware of the plans being laid against him due to the whims of fickle advertising executives. Once again, we see Charles Van Doren, this time at the NBC offices, interviewing to be on another of the television giant's game shows, Tic-Tac-Doe. Producer Albert Friedman is caught off guard with Van Doren's striking appearance and engages the man personally.
So I understand you came down to try out for Tic-Tac-Doe.
Well, my friends tell me I have a good mind for this sort of thing. They coaxed me.
How'd you like to be on 21?
Friedman fast-talks Charlie by throwing assurances of money, fame, and the guarantee that the match will be fair and square. So pure it floats, he even says. Stemple and Van Doren are introduced.
Herbert. Okay. I'd like you to meet next week's challenger, Charles Van Doren.
Hello.
And the very next week, their showdown begins. The fix is in, and only the producers truly know the outcome and the very scripted fates that will befall both contestants. Before we meet and find ourselves on the wrong side of Mr. Dick Goodwin, and in an effort not to get wrapped up in the devious plans of these corporate big shots and their only concerns, profitability and appeasing corporate sponsorship, let's make our way out of the studio and back into our much more humble lobby, which is obviously brought to you by Geritol.
Geritol.
All right, Leah. I tried to keep that one brief. Hopefully I did all right on it.
That was very brief.
Sweet. I'm trying to get better at it. I do like to ramble.
Yeah. You tell a good story, though.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
With the plot kind of put to bed and people brought up to speed where the action starts happening, let's move on to other topics, eh?
Yeah.
How about that old cast and crew like we always do?
Always got to start with the cast and crew. You got to set the stage, you know?
You got to know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Right? Well, where are we going to start? I'm going to leave the start of this topic to you.
I would actually like to start with the director, Robert Redford.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
All right, challenge accepted. Let's talk about Robert Redford.
So last week, we talked about Hudsucker Proxy.
We sure did.
And Paul Newman was in Hudsucker Proxy.
Right.
Robert Redford played the Sundance Kid alongside none other than Paul Newman, who played Butch Cassidy in, of course, the 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yes.
In 1980, Robert Redford actually established the Sundance Institute for Aspiring Filmmakers. And now it's an annual festival, and it's become one of the world's most influential festivals, the Sundance Film Festival.
A lot of really high-profile independent films come out of there. They get some fantastic distribution deals and some great awards and stuff. Yeah, it's a great little festival.
I didn't realize that's how it started.
No?
Yeah, which is really cool. I mean,
yeah,
it makes
that's
sense.
pretty awesome. Yeah. When you think about the connection, otherwise you're just like, what the hell does Sundance mean?
Yeah, right.
But it's obviously in reference to his very famous role.
Yeah. He got his directorial debut in the movie Ordinary People from 1980.
Oh, right.
It won him an Academy Award for Best Director in 1981.
Fantastic. Good for him.
Did all right. He's also directed A River Runs Through It, The Horse Whisperer, The Legend of Bagger Vance. So he's gone on to direct quite a few influential films, so influential that 4 actors have gotten Oscar-nominated performances for the movies he's directed. Mary Tyler Moore, Judd Hirsch, and Timothy Hutton in the movie Ordinary People, and Paul Schofield in Quiz Show.
Oh, Quiz Show.
Yeah. I mean, he's always been a good actor, too. He's acted in the movie The Candidate, The Great Gatsby.
So many things.
Indecent Proposal. He played Ike the Horse on Charlotte's Web.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So, we got that cartoon thing going on that, you got to do a voice for a cartoon.
Got to get that cartoon voiceover work.
More notably, he did work in Captain America the Winter Soldier as Alexander Pierce.
Much more recently, huh?
And Avengers Endgame. And then he was in the 2016 Pete's Dragon as well.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
So I think he's a great actor. I think he does good in both roles, honestly. The directing is really well done, too.
He knows how to make a movie move right along. Also would like to mention he was in The Sting and All the President's Men, The Natural, Sneakers. Those are just a few that I also really like that he had done. He pops up in so many movies that people know. Yeah. Well, okay. I've been trying to go a little bit lighter on the cast and crew lately because I know sometimes,
they'll come up over
as
and over
always,
anyway.
I do tend to ramble much. And yes, of course, they do keep coming back. So to exhaust all information in a single episode on them would be just not worth it. So let's move on from Mr. Redford. Who are we talking about next, Leia?
Well, actually, I wasn't going to go into talking about the producers, and I'm still not going to.
Okay.
But I wanted to let you know that there were 11 producers for this film.
Wow.
And 2 of those producers decided they didn't even need to be mentioned in the credits because they figured if there's 11 of them, like,
That's
what's the
a lot.
point?
Yeah.
So they settled for a name check for their production company, Baltimore Pictures, instead. And that was Barry Levinson and Mark Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they are also producers. They just aren't listed in the 11 that were in there.
Too damn many producers.
A lot of producers, yeah. But let's move on to the writers. Paul Attanasio. Yeah. See, he's written Donnie Brasco, Sphere, The Sum of All Fears, Homicide: Life on the Street he's pretty well known for, was his TV show, and Gideon's Crossing. He has a law degree from Harvard Law School.
Does he now?
He's a smart man.
I'm sure that probably helps when he's writing Homicide.
Yeah. Anything else on him?
Before he was working as a screenwriter, he worked as a film critic for Washington Post.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I mean, he at least must have a pretty good grasp on film.
Sure, absolutely. Another writer was Richard N. Goodwin, who is one of the characters.
The real life Dick Goodwin.
Yeah, the real life Dick Goodwin. He wrote for the quiz show, and he was also a co-producer.
Okay.
But what he's actually more well known for is writing for political figures.
Oh, sure.
Most notably some presidents, some senators.
So like a speechwriter or something.
He wrote
like
the
that?
speeches for him. Yeah. He actually worked for President John F. Kennedy when he was 29 years of age.
Wow.
And then after his assassination, he worked with President Lyndon B. Johnson. He actually helped formulate the concept of the Great Society, and he drafted many of Johnson's major civil rights addresses. He's an interesting looking dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw any pictures of him.
No.
Not nearly as handsome as he is in the movie.
What a shame.
Yeah. He's got a character face for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You'd be able to pick him out in a lineup.
So he'd be notable if you saw him.
Absolutely, yeah. That's all I got on the writers.
Okay.
Let's move on to the actors.
Yeah, let's do.
Brought this all to life. Let's talk about Ralph Fiennes. So his actual full name is Ralph Nathaniel Twistleton Wycombe Fiennes.
Wow.
All hyphenated.
That's
like the last 3 are all hyphenated.
All right.
So it's a really long name. I can tell
Yeah.
now why he just goes by Ray Fiennes.
Yeah. Seems much easier.
Because that seems much easier. He has 96 listings in TV and film. He's been in a lot.
A lot of work.
Yeah. He's also just a highly decorated actor. He's been nominated for 2 Academy Awards for Best Actor in a Leading Role for The English Patient and Best Actor for a Supporting Role in Schindler's List.
Oh, of course.
Which was just phenomenal.
Yeah, he did great in that one.
In total, he's had 46 total wins for awards, just in general, and 135 nominations.
All right. So he's got a cabinet that's full.
Yeah. A couple of them are Razzies.
Oh,
so it's not like they're all good. I mean, those are still good, I guess.
Yeah,
They're
hey.
still an award, right?
It's still an award. It's still some notoriety.
Still some notoriety there. He's been in a lot of films that I love.
Oh, yeah, for certain.
He's, of course, been in Schindler's List and The English Patient. We talked about those. He did his cartoon voice acting in The Prince of Egypt.
Forgot that movie.
He's in Strange Days.
I love that one.
Red Dragon, Lord Voldemort.
Oh, who
in
could
the
forget?
Harry Potter movies.
Yes, of course.
I think that's what most people these days know him by, especially the young crew. He was in Great Expectations, Skyfall. He also did a voice in Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, okay.
And the Lego Movie 2.
So some more voiceover work.
And Lego Batman movie as Pennyworth. He was also in The King's Man and most recently in The Return. So he's got quite the list. Is there any other ones that you loved that he was in that I did not mention?
2 more that I just want to do a quick
of
point
course.
out. In Bruges, which I think is now the 3rd episode in a row where somebody has shown up in that movie. And one that I personally really, really enjoy, The Menu.
Oh, right.
Yes.
He was great in that film.
Such a good movie.
We're going to have to do that one.
I think so.
Because that was a good one.
We'll have to see if there's a
so
National
bizarre.
Food Day or something.
Super good. Yeah, seriously. You know, he's a noted Shakespeare interpreter.
Is he now?
Yeah. He first achieved success on stage at the Royal National Theatre.
Wow. All right, good for him.
Since 1999, Fiennes has also served as an ambassador for UNICEF UK.
Oh, no kidding.
Which I think is just admirable.
That's some good work.
Yeah. He's also the 8th cousin of King Charles III.
Hence the long-ass name.
Probably. Probably because, hence the long-ass name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing that I'd like to say about Ralph Fiennes before we move on to someone else.
Is that he's fine? Oh, sorry.
He's fine.
Continue.
Yeah, he was very handsome in Quiz Show for certain.
Yeah.
It's only sort of in relation to him. So he was in, of course, like you mentioned, a lot of the Harry Potter films as He Who Shall Not Be Named, right?
Yeah.
He was not in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince because that focused on young Tom Riddle.
Oh, yeah. I know where you're going with this.
And in that movie, Rafe's nephew, Hero Fine, played young Tom Riddle.
Okay.
So I don't know if he recommended or if it was a casting decision. Just
it worked well.
Yeah, it was great. So, all right. So yeah, that's all I needed to throw in there. What else? Well, who's next?
Let's move on to Rob Morrow. He played Goodwin.
Yeah, of course.
I know him from Northern Exposure. I don't know if you ever watched that one.
I did.
I watched it. It was funny.
I never watched the whole series.
No, I don't think I did either.
I caught a fair number of episodes for certain.
I remember my parents watching it like every week.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was funny.
America loved it.
Yeah. He's also been in the movie Numbers, the TV show.
TV show.
Yeah. CSI New York and the Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
And there we go.
Yep, bam, boom. He's in those. That's 2 episodes. Yeah, 2 mentions in 1 episode. Rob Morrow read 4 of Goodman's books to get kind of the idea for his character. But this is the best part. I think this is a little bit of trivia you're going to love. And you're going to love him for this.
Okay, throw it at me. Here we go.
He and his wife show affinity for pun names.
Oh, yeah.
Her name, Debonair, is a homophone for the word debonair and means suave and snazzy or carefree.
Of course.
And their daughter's name, when spoken without her middle name, is a homophone for the word tomorrow. Her name's Tomorrow. You like that, don't you? I knew you'd like that.
I love clever wordplay.
I think you guys would get along real well.
I definitely enjoy puns as much as I hate to admit it, and as much as they make me groan.
Yeah, they're groaners for sure,
Yes.
but that's great.
My favorite wordplay of all time is portmanteau.
Yes,
So,
we know.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows already.
I've done it.
If you don't know, look up a portmanteau and then listen to the episodes again, and you'll know.
You'll hear Brandon doing stupid things.
Yep.
I absolutely love that. I think it's fantastic. A great way to put a little jubilance into someone's life.
Right.
The one other thing I'll mention about Rob Morrow before we move on to the next is that he is on the board of directors for Project ALS.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Aw. All right, so should we move on to John Turturro?
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Remember back when we talked about Batman Returns?
So long ago. I'll try.
And the writer, one of the writers, his name is Sam Hamm.
Sam Hamm.
Sam Hamm also wrote the movie Monkey Bone.
Oh, wow.
Which also has John Turturro in it.
Right, indeed.
Coming full circle.
Yes.
I love making those connections.
Well, and not to mention John Turturro later appeared in a Batman movie.
He did. Yes. We just had an episode about the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of his movies. He likes to cast him in a lot of his movies.
Yep.
Barton Fink, The Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So, I mean, he's in a lot of those films. He is also an actor who's appeared in more Spike Lee films than any other actor.
Oh, yeah. He does show up in a lot of Spike Lee films, huh?
And any other actor, he shows up in the most.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. He's been in Collateral Damage, Mr. Deed, Anger Management, Transformers, Cars 2.
Cars 2.
He was in Cars 2 with
Paul Newman. Right.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Oh, okay.
He was in that one. And he's also in the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And of course, I already mentioned the ones from the Coen brothers.
Of course.
He speaks fluent Italian.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That's cool.
He does show up in one of his movies. I didn't write the movie down, but he does speak fluent Italian in one of his movies.
Okay.
Because he can.
Yeah, sure. Why not? If you got the skill.
Right.
Put them to use.
Any other movies that you want to mention before I go on to the next point?
We did already mention the Batman from 2022, but he also, just because I thought it was clever, because he does, if you look at him just right, he does look like he could be related to Tony Shalhoub. He plays Monk's brother in 3 episodes of Monk, the TV series. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Good
it
casting.
totally does. Yeah.
They
Yeah,
even
there we
kind of
go.
sound the same.
They do have a way. And if not, John Turturro
He
is
can
so
make it
good
happen.
at making little voice accents.
Yeah.
He does great. Way better than I ever do. That's what I got.
As of 2024, he's appeared in 3 films that were nominated for Best Picture Oscar. He was in Raging Bull, Hannah and Her Sisters, and then Quiz Show.
Quiz Show.
He also appeared in 4 films that have been selected for the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, which includes Raging Bull, Desperately Seeking Susan, Do the Right Thing, and The Big Lebowski.
There we go.
I had to point it out.
The one final thing I want to mention about John Turturro is that he is also he's a member of the jury for New York Children's Film Festival.
Oh, okay.
Which focuses on films for children ages 3 to 18. So I thought that was kind of awesome.
That's
as
adorable.
Well. Yeah, it's super
I love
cool.
that.
He seems to have a real passion for finding really awesome kids movies for kids.
All right.
So I've got one other person I'd like to mention. And then if there's anything else you want to talk about after that, otherwise we can move on to the next section.
Yeah.
But one other person I wanted to mention, because if you'll notice, every single person we just mentioned was male. I would like to have at least a little bit of representation outside of that.
Yeah, sure.
She also deserves it. So Mira Sorvino's also in the film. She's not the one I wanted to focus on because she gets enough focus on a lot of other films that I'm sure we'll end up covering. But I wanted to talk a moment about Joan Carlo. She played Toby Stemple, Herbie Stemple's wife.
She did it. I loved her character.
She was so good.
Her character was great.
She was so sassy, and she
held her own, and her lines were delivered expertly.
Yeah, she was the one who every time Herbie was almost willing to kind of roll over, she was like, "No,
Don't
screw
do
that."
it. Yeah.
So Joan Carlo, she's, aside from acting, which she's been doing for a very long time, she's also an accomplished artist.
Oh, is she now?
Yeah, she.
What kind of media does she do?
Paint, photography, things like that.
All sorts of art.
She has created a series called the Hobo Series, which is a series of pictographs and symbols of street wanderers, which she has had displayed in New Orleans and New York. New Orleans.
Amazing.
And New York. But aside from that, she kind of got her start on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Did she?
Yeah, she was Dixie the cab driver.
Oh, really?
In 13 episodes. She was only in it for the first season. After that,
13 episodes. I mean, that's no small pennies there.
Yeah, she would show up and introduce the king of cartoons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she'd show up and then she'd play her little trumpet and the king of cartoons kind of thing.
I love that.
She was in the movie Happiness, which is another movie I really enjoy.
I've seen that like once, and it's only because it makes me sad.
Yeah, it's a very...
it's really
very
good.
Emotional movie.
But it makes me sad.
She also has appeared in Boardwalk Empire for 2 episodes and The Sopranos for 2 episodes, and then 2 episodes of Law and Order.
Of course.
So, yeah, I just had to kind of...
We got to put that in there, yeah, of course.
So, anyway, yeah, so that I just wanted to give Joan Carlo a little call out there because too many dicks on the dance floor here. Not just talking about
Dicks and Harrys on this dance floor.
Let's get out of cast and crew, or is there anyone else you want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about anybody else in particular. I do want to mention that there are 2 other actors in this film that have a long list of accolades to their name.
Okay.
And that would be David Paymer. He plays the producer, I think, of the show.
Yeah.
One of the producers.
Yeah, not Friedman,
or the director
the
or something like that. Yeah. And then Hank Azaria, he plays the producer.
He plays Friedman. Yep.
Yeah. They were really great in this film, too. I wanted to
at
least
phenomenal.
mention their names.
Yeah, because they do have a large part in the film for certain. I mean, they are on the screen more than Joan Carlo was as Toby Stemple.
And Hank Azaria, I just think he's hilarious.
He is
in
phenomenal.
it's a dark character, and he's not a nice guy, but he's still really like clever.
Yeah, he's a complete scumbag.
Yeah, so
just
that's funny.
Like too many producers in this film. We've got too many actors.
To cover.
That we're covering here. Yeah. So, but I think we had some great call outs there. Let's move on. Let's not spend all day here with the cast and crew as much as we'd love to.
Let's move on to some acclaim.
There we are.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
So we got some decently long legs on this one.
Oh, here we go with the legs again.
7.37.
Okay.
A little bit higher than last week. I think it was like 5 something
I think it was only
for
a
Hudsucker.
Yeah.
So it's a 737. So the budget was $31 million. And opening weekend it did $757,000. Domestic box office was $24.7 million.
Well, at least we're coming closer to that budget.
Yeah. They considered it a financial disappointment. It grossed $52.2 million, so they didn't make their money back, but I think they were hoping to make a lot more back than that.
I imagine they would.
Especially considering the positive reviews that this movie got and the awards that it won.
It was really well received. It just didn't get a lot of butts in seats, as they say.
Yeah, like I said, it was nominated for Best Picture Oscar. It got several Golden Globe Awards. It was number 10 on Roger Ebert's list of best films for 1994.
Wow.
It got pretty good feedback.
Yeah, the critical reviews were all pretty high.
Yeah, I think they were just hoping to make a little bit more on it.
Yeah.
Should we get into a little bit of the inspiration for the film?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
It should be pretty obvious where the direct inspiration came from.
We already mentioned it a little bit.
Real life incident.
A lot of it came directly from the chapter book, Remembering America, A Voice from the 60s, was written in 1988 by Richard N. Goodwin himself, he's also one of the film's many producers.
Of course.
Paul Antanasio began writing the screenplay in 1990. He completed several drafts over the course of 3 years. Took him a while to write it. He wrote it by watching clips of 21. He read old articles about the scandal. He learned about the 1950s television landscape landscape he went to the Museum of Broadcasting, and he met with Goodwin himself.
So we got some direct insight.
Yeah, he got a lot of direct insight. Redford researched the topic by reading Dan Wakefield's book, New York in the 50s, and brought Wakefield to the film set as an advisor and also gave him a cameo appearance in the film. Redford had known Goodwin since he appeared in the movie The Candidate in 1972.
Oh, yeah, going back a bit.
Mm-hmm. And he helped Anastasio integrate Goodwin's personality into the script.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Another interesting kind of pull for the movie. Quiz Show is kind of categorized as a Faustian tale.
Yeah, deal with the devil kind of thing.
Loss of innocence, seeing both the character as well as the sense the entire country felt. So the whole country felt this sense of loss because they were lied to. And
not something that happened on TV often.
No, not back then.
Not back then, yeah.
No. And TV hadn't been around that long to begin with.
Yeah.
So it was pretty shocking at the time. Also, the power of fame and fortune and like negative side effects of the power of fame and fortune. That fine line between right and wrong and kind of all that gray matter in between.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of being a celebrity and then finding out the negative side effects to it. So, like, you have this idea of being a celebrity and it's going to be so amazing. And then you realize you have no privacy. And people are up in your business and they're making lies about you.
Not all the glitz and glamour that you were hoping for.
Right. It's also kind of a Faustian tale because you're looking at big business and mass media's power and hold on the consumers. You also get a sense of racial, ethnic, and class struggles at the time of that culture in the 1950s. So that's kind of all been pulled together to create the sense the movie had.
It gave a much more relatable feel to the film, putting all that
Everyone's
stuff in
making
there.
deals with the devil in this film. The producers, the actors, the quiz show contestants. Which were actors.
Of course. Yeah, basically. They were all coached and their outfits were all picked and designed perfectly and they were told how to behave in the studio.
Yeah, I think Redford had even said that when he was watching the quiz show as a young man, he remembered, and he was already kind of doing some acting or like getting interested in acting. He remembers watching it and thinking what great actors they were. And then he was like, oh, right, they're not actors. They're quiz show. They're just really good at it.
Yeah.
They're really your contestant. And then later finding out that they were actually...
They were all acting.
Acting, yeah. Because we struggled with figuring out what the issue was with this. Like, I don't see what the big deal is, you know?
We live in a day and age where everything on TV, you just assume the TV's lying to you.
You always assume the TV's lying to you until you do your own research and figure it out. Back then, you took what they said because, like, why wouldn't you, right?
News and game shows, they were all supposed to be not rigged.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So Redford said that he remembers feeling that sense of loss and betrayal when he found out that it wasn't real, which is another reason why he decided to do this film.
There's a scene in the film where some people are watching TV. They break away from a WWF style wrestling program, which I thought is poignant because for a long time, there was always that debate. Oh, is professional wrestling real? Is it fake? Is it real? Is it fake? And even back then, I thought it was neat for them to throw that in as a scene to cut away from because obviously we all know
now that it's
professional wrestling
totally
is scripted.
Fake. Yeah.
So just like everything
likely
else they were watching.
Scripted back then too.
Likely was.
Yeah. I mean, it really marked a decline in the game shows that came out after the scandal happened. And then, of course, it picked up again after we all settled our minds and realized that this is just entertainment.
Yeah.
But there was a long stretch after this all happened where the game shows stopped happening.
Yep. Yeah. And people lost their faith in the infallible portrayal that they were being shown on TV.
So let's just talk briefly about the scandal itself.
Okay.
Just so people understand, like, what the scandal was actually really all about, because it's not exactly how it's portrayed in the film.
Yeah, not entirely. There's definitely some deviations.
Yeah, it actually takes place between 57 and 59, so it's quite
a long stretch.
A long stretch. Redford actually decided to merge all of them into 1959 just because he didn't want to make it a documentary. He wanted to make it a film.
Well, and for pacing, too, it would have been really difficult to show how long this actually ran and then fit it into a movie that was already pretty long on its own.
And I guess there was already one made in 92.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't look up. I should have looked it up. But that was more documentary-esque.
Yeah.
And he just didn't want a film that was going to be like that.
No, when you're making a film like this, it doesn't need to be exactly the way everything was portrayed. So
right. So he did take several artistic liberties when he was doing this, which I'm going to talk about in the spoilers because there's several spoilers in there towards the end of the liberties that he took to create this film and change it.
All right.
But If you want to talk about the scandal itself, which I don't think is really a major spoiler.
Right.
It's hard to spoil real life unless you haven't read the news, I guess.
Guess what? The Titanic sunk.
Man went to the moon.
Who knew?
Who knew? So the show's $64,000 question was the first show that was involved in the scandal in 1955.
Okay.
And then more followed after that. So this 21 wasn't the first show that actually had this happen. Van Doren was in the show. He ended up losing to Vivian Nearing.
Yeah.
How about a warm hand for our new champion, Mrs. Vivian Nearing?
In 1957. And then by 1959, there was an investigation into the scandals by the district attorney's office and then by the U.S. Congress in the summer of that same year. During these investigations, the formal congressional committee led by congressional investigator Richard Goodwin subpoenaed Van Doren, who then went into hiding. He just disappeared.
Yeah, he seemed real reluctant.
And in the movie, you kind of get a sense that it's a moral issue that he's struggling with his parents and with his job and
his own personal morality.
Yeah. There's another character in the film. His name is James Snodgrass. He was also a former 21 contestant. He actually documented all the answers that he was coached on in the form of letters, and he mailed them to himself before the show was taped. So that's how that was in the movie. And that documentation kind of corroborated the proof that the show was indeed written.
Yeah, it kind of cemented the whole ordeal.
Yeah. And then Van Doren came out of hiding to confess in front of the committee and the nation that he had participated in this scandal. Unlike the movie, he wasn't fired from Columbia University after the scandal. He left voluntarily and he became an editor for a book publishing company. Then he became a writer under a pseudonym.
Okay.
And then an editor for Encyclopedia Britannica. He did go back to teaching in 2005. He taught English at the University of Connecticut.
Right.
So he did go back to doing teaching at some point.
I remember reading an article where he said one of his biggest complaints about the film itself was the postscript says that he never went back to teaching.
Yeah.
But in reality, he did go back to teaching.
He did.
He just wasn't teaching college right away.
No.
So
And I think you can't take the teacher out of a teacher.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2008 that he actually wrote an expose for the New Yorker of his version of the events. So we didn't actually hear his version of the events until much later.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of the rundown, the quick and dirty of kind of what that scandal was all about. And nobody actually went to jail. It's not like it was
it wasn't
against the law.
Yeah, no one broke the law.
No one went to prison. No one broke the law.
Just a lot of ethics and
yeah, several individuals were prosecuted for obstruction of justice and perjury.
Okay.
So not for the actual scandal itself, but for other things. And then this scandal led to really big changes in laws regarding contests. So most of the quiz shows that were out at the time were canceled, and that genre, nearly died.
Yeah, went away almost.
And I think one of the only few to survive was a bowling show.
Oh, bowling.
Yeah, because they figured sports were difficult to fix on TV.
It is more difficult to fix bowling.
But bowling made it. Bowling made it.
You still could fix it.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the 70s that a kind of new generation of game shows and puzzles and wordplay, trivia knowledge came out.
Sure.
So yeah, it took a while for it all to come back.
All right.
To the public eye.
Get back into the public's good graces again.
Yeah, I think the two biggest changes that were made were they limited how long these championship runs can last.
Okay.
That was one thing. And then they also limited the amount of money a contestant could win.
Oh.
So there's, I guess, a general limit to how much you could give to a contestant.
To prevent the idea that, hey, we can just keep on fixing this and you can keep on winning and winning and winning.
Yeah, as long as you do what we say. So, Van Doren himself was actually asked to consult the film.
Oh, right. Yeah.
For, I think, $100,000.
$100,000.
He declined. Yeah.
He had some very reasonable people talking to him.
Finally.
Yes. To talk him out of it. His wife and his daughter were instrumental in convincing him to not take part in it. Which, it depends on the way you look at it. I mean, one, it would have been nice to be a consultant to get things right. But if it's something that you feel you were involved in and it was against your morality looking back on it now, maybe you just want it
go away
to be done.
Yeah.
You you want that part of your life to be in the past. So rather than create any more mental trauma or anything like that, it's best to just kind of leave it alone.
Yeah. And also, Paul Newman was actually considered for a role in this film.
Was he?
Which I had to bring up because he's been coming up lately.
And him and Robert Redford, best of buds.
So he was actually initially considered for the role of Mark Van Duren, but he declined it.
The older Van Duren.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Probably declined it because he had just got done doing Hudsucker Proxy.
Right.
Oh, he was about to do Hudsucker Proxy.
Busy doing that.
That one came out in September.
Speaking of Van Doren wanting nothing to do with it, Ralph Fiennes, of course, who played Charles Van Doren, he wanted to hear Charles speak so he could get a way of emulating his voice more correctly. And of course, we just mentioned he wanted nothing to do with the production. So Ralph Fiennes and a production member, they drove to Connecticut where Van Doren's living, and they didn't really engage him in long conversation. They knew he wanted nothing to do with it, so I'm certain they wanted to at least be semi-respectful of that. So they just pretended to be lost and asked him for directions.
Yeah, he said the conversation lasted like 30 seconds.
Yeah, but I guess it was enough for him to get an idea of, okay, this
what
is how I want to...
What his speech pattern is.
Yeah. They just found him sitting on his porch, just hanging out, just being a retired guy.
Just being a retired guy, minding his own business.
That's right. Which I think was a good way of doing it, because you then aren't trying to mine him for information. You're not bothering the man who just wants to be left alone. So I think that was fine. Oh, and because I think we have to say this part, 32 episodes of the original 21 game show are preserved and held by the U.S. Library of Congress.
Are they? 31 episodes?
Yeah, 32.
32 episodes. Wow. That makes sense, I suppose. Especially since it's considered,
culturally
relevant,
significant.
So just a little side note, Totoro found it easy to assume Stemple's character.
Oh, really?
And I think probably the mannerisms and just the way he talks, he found that sort of easy.
No, Herbert Stemple is not going to win over $100,000.
Herbert Stemple is going to take a dive.
But he did gain 25 pounds for the role.
Totoro is pretty lithe most of the time.
Yeah, and he altered his voice to mimic Stemple's voice.
Yeah, he went a little higher register in this one.
He did, yeah. I think it was spot on, just listening to some of the
old clips.
Yeah. He did a really good job of like matching that. I believe he plays a Jewish character, correct? It's only relevant because in the 50s that was still, there was still a lot
prejudice,
of anti-Semitism and whatnot.
Yeah,
the 50s.
There's a scene in the film where Herbie Stemple is complaining about how he felt it was even a racially motivated thing that he was being kicked off the show.
Because he's Jewish.
He says something to the effect of,
I made a study of it. They always follow a Jew with a Gentile, and the Gentile wins more money. What is that, a coincidence?
There's also one scene where Dan Enright, who's played by David Paymer, which is, I mentioned him earlier, is confronted by Dick Goodwin. Paymer would actually later play Goodwin in RFK in 2002.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So a little connection there.
So, okay, that's interesting.
And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was there is a cameo appearance that I am not aware of, and I'm going to have to rewatch the film to see it.
Okay.
Ethan Hawke plays a cameo in this film.
Where?
He's one of Mark Van Duren's students. The actual Herb Stemple is in this as well.
Oh, yeah.
And he plays a former contestant that's interviewed by Richard Goodwin.
Yeah. I did not know that about Ethan Hawke.
I'm going to have to watch it again so I can just see.
Check that out.
He has to be pretty young in this film.
I would imagine so.
Not really young, but like young.
Youngish, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. So you say that's all you've got?
That's all I got, yeah.
All right. I've got a few things, mostly just kind of real life related. I guess kind of winding it back to inspiration-ish, but I felt it wasn't really necessary to fit it into there. So
more talking about the real life scandal.
Yeah. Herbie Stemple in the film, he talks, when he's testifying, he talks about how there was a producer that came to his house and told him what to wear and, how to behave and all that.
He told me how to stutter and say in a plaintive voice, I will take 9 points.
So it was all choreographed.
How to bite my lip.
I mean, that, of course, was mirrored by...
How to clear his throat.
And to pat his head.
Not wipe.
To pat.
How to mop my brow. He told me specifically not to smear my brow, but rather to pat for optimum effect. Of course, I'm schwitzing the whole time because they turned off the air conditioning.
In real life, Stemple was absolutely visited by a producer who...
Coached
him, told him what to wear, how to behave. And the producer, it seems, made it clear when he offered him $25,000.
Dan Enright came to see me in my kitchen, and he said, how'd you like to make $25,000? And I said, who wouldn't?
but made it fairly clear it was not for simply appearing and competing, it was for being complicit in the fix.
So he knew from the get that that's what was happening was going to happen.
Was going to be happening.
But he needed the money, apparently.
He needed the money, and I mean, if
you're guaranteed the money,
when you're guaranteed the money and life is rough and you're living paycheck to paycheck, $25,000, particularly in the 50s, boy, that's pretty convincing.
Yeah, it is. What about Van Doren? Did he throw it out the way that they wanted him to, or?
So from what I understand, his path was also fairly mirrored in the film as well, where he morally objected and they still insisted that it was going to go down okay.
Yeah.
And they ended up to kind of, I guess, ease him into the process.
Slowly making it so that he was getting the answers without him even realizing he was doing it.
Yeah, they did what they presented to him and then told him they weren't going to do, where they were presenting him questions they knew he knew the answers to.
21, and ask you questions that you know. Say the questions that he answered correctly on the test this morning.
And then, eventually he did get into the full-on
became
fix.
completely complicit.
But everybody was in on it. So I feel it's also worth noting, in the history of the game show 21, the first episode was 100% not rigged. The audience responded so poorly to the first episode that the sponsorship called and insisted they never wanted to see a repeat of what happened on that first episode ever happen again. Of course, with nobody getting the answers, all of the questions were too difficult for the contestants. So the first episode ended 0-0. Nobody scored any points because they didn't get any questions right. No one got any money.
Well, yeah, that's boring.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
boring.
wants to see that.
The sponsor said, no, we're not doing that again. Figure something out. From then on, episode 2 forward, we're all rigged.
All of them.
Yeah.
All 31 other episodes.
Yeah.
Well, 31 in the Library of Congress,
Yeah.
at least.
So, yeah, that's, I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right, so I just have a couple other things to just mention really quick. I was going to do a spoiler section.
Once inside the isolation booth, neither player can see the other, nor can they hear anything until I turn their studios on, which I'm going to do right now.
But I decided not to do a spoiler section.
Oh, okay.
I better go. I don't want to miss my train.
So there were I think we had discussed some of Robert Redford's artistic licensing in like changing the way the real life events happen.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And I think we already touched on this, but just so everyone's clear, it was a 3-year-long scandal.
Yeah, it was not the like short.
No, but he
little
condensed
ordeal.
it all into just one. So that's like the first artistic license he kind of took with that. He changed the location of Van Doren's first meeting with Goodwin.
Oh, okay.
So the location was not where he first met Goodwin, but somewhere else.
Yeah, so in the movie, they first met in the NBC production offices.
Charles Van Doren.
Charles Van Doren? Like Van Doren?
Yeah, but that's not where they actually met. He altered the start time of Goodwin's investigation. So Joe Stone, he's a congressional committee consultant who he investigated the scandal for like 4 years.
Oh, wow.
He was really angry about that deserved Goodwin took way more credit for uncovering the scandal than he actually deserved to have. Yeah. He actually only became involved in the 21 scandal 2 years after it ended syndication. He wasn't even involved in it at the time that it was happening.
Yeah, so he didn't take it down.
No, so that's a major artistic liberty that Robert Redford took with this film. And I think it's the most egregious one, honestly.
I would say.
And I can understand why Joe Stone would have been pissed off about that.
Yeah, I totally get it.
I was involved in that for 4 years while it was happening.
My work, bro.
Yeah. The other thing was he did continue teaching after that scandal. In the film's epilogue, it states he never returned to academia.
Yeah.
But he did.
He did,
yeah.
Like you said, you can't take the teaching out of the teacher.
You can't take the teaching out of the teacher.
In all of that real life nature, there's one last thing I kind of want to touch on, and that's kind of how the real ending of the reign of Stemple went down. In the film, of course, they coach Stemple and tell him, hey, you're going to lose on the question of what was the Academy Award winning movie. They tell him to say On the Waterfront, even though it was Marty.
Now, the last category is movies. We're going to ask you what won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1955. You don't know it? You answer On the Waterfront.
In the real world, Stemple was coached to answer that question incorrectly, but that's not the one that made him lose.
Oh, okay. What was the one that made him lose?
The day he answered the one incorrectly about On the Waterfront, it was more for tension.
Okay.
Because he still ended up, both contestants, Van Doren and Stemple, ended up tying on that day.
Oh.
It was the next episode where...
It's way different.
Yeah, way different. On the next episode, he was coached to say that, so the question was, what was the title of, and I would never have known this is insane to me. What was the title of the August 15th, 1896 editorial in the Emporia Gazette written by William Allen White?
What?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Wow.
So the answer was supposed to be, what's the matter with Kansas?
What is the matter with Kansas?
I wish I knew. If I could tell you, I would. Sorry to our Kansas and Kansasians.
There's nothing wrong with Kansas.
Nothing wrong with Kansas. You're great.
You're fine. Just a few tornadoes, that's all.
A few tornadoes. But that was the question that he was coached to lose. And then finally, Van Doren took the championship at that point. So it was 4 episodes of those two tying. Well, 3 episodes of them tying. The fourth encounter is where he lost.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I thought that was kind of intriguing.
You know, speaking of Herb Stemple, as of April of 2020, he was the last living member of the quiz show Scandal.
Was he?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
So in 2020, that was the last one.
He got the last laugh.
He got the last laugh for sure.
Outlasted everyone.
Everybody, yeah. All right, well, that's all I have for quiz show.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I feel like this is probably a shorter one.
Mm-hmm. The research on the actual scandal itself was the most exciting part for me.
It was really intriguing.
It's very intriguing.
Honestly.
Yeah.
The sequence of events and the whole behind
how it all
the
goes
scenes,
down.
Everything. Is just
and then really wrapping your mind around like why it was so significant. Because I think at first when I started doing the research for this, I didn't understand why this was so significant. And then the more you read about it, the more you realize that society was a lot more naive.
Yeah, they were a lot more
50s.
trusting.
A lot more trusting. And this was a huge deal back then, Today, it's just, it just happens on TV. That's all TV is lies.
I just assume that every game show I watch is scripted.
It's completely scripted.
And I don't watch a ton of game shows, but were I to watch game shows, I would assume that they are scripted in some way.
I think I'm going to ask my great-grandmother about this.
You absolutely should.
Yeah. She's 90.
Yeah.
So she may have some insight.
Maybe she will. Maybe
she can tell me how she felt. Did she feel betrayed?
Maybe we'll come back with
a little update.
A little Grammy England
update. Yeah.
All right, Leah. Well, I think it's time to close up the lobby. I kind of feel bad ending so soon, but I guess that's just the way it goes.
I'd like to put you to the test if you're amenable to it.
Okay.
Well, we just covered a movie about trivia on a podcast that likes to, distribute trivia. So
yeah, you're right.
It only seems fitting that we have our very first on-episode quiz.
Okay. You know what? You've convinced me. I think that's a pretty good idea.
All right. Are you all right if I lob just 10 questions at you?
Yes, 10 is fine. I'll see what I can do.
I could take a whack at it.
Okay, you ready?
Okay, let's
Here we go. What famous director makes a cameo in this movie as a character named Martin Rittenholm?
Okay, so because you say cameo and director, I think I know this one, of course, because I believe I mentioned him kind of way up at the top there. Martin Scorsese.
My Stemple is giving me a headache.
Ding, 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 ding. Congratulations.
All right, thank you so much.
What brand was a sponsor of 21?
Ooh. They're also a sponsor of us. No, they're not. Geritol.
Geritol.
Geritol, America's #1 tonic.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Uh-huh.
What game show was Van Doren interviewing to be on before he was offered the chance to appear on 21?
Oh, I know this one because I remember it not so much from the first time I saw the movie, but when I was kind of rewatching the movie for little bits and bobs. Tic-tac-toe.
So I understand you came down to try out for tic-tac-toe.
I like the wordplay on tic-tac-toe. I think that's probably why you remember it so well, too.
Yeah, it's probably right.
Spelt dough, D-O-U-G-H.
Yeah, get that money.
Get that money. Number 4. The movie opens with Dick Goodwin checking out a new car. What brand of car is he considering?
So this one I probably would not have remembered had I not actually written it in the plot script that I had written down. Chrysler.
Chrysler! Ding, 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 ding. Number 5. The epilogue states that Charles Van Doren never taught again. True or false?
Well, we just talked about this not long ago.
Just covered it.
So I think I can cover this one. That would be false. He did return to teaching.
Number 6. What was the budget of this movie?
All right. I don't know that I'm going to remember that one precisely. Can I give you a monetary range?
You can, but you won't be right.
Oh, you're going to put me to that test.
But you can give me an idea, I'll let you know if you're close.
Okay. 33 million.
So close. You're a little too high.
30 million.
A little too low?
Damn it. 31.
You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
$31 million.
$31 million. Number 7. How many episodes of 21 in real life were not rigged?
I just mentioned this just
You
a few
did.
minutes ago.
These are too easy.
Only the first one was not rigged.
It's a fix. It's all a fix. A setup.
Yes. Number 8. How many real-life matches did Stemple and Van Doren have before Stemple finally lost?
So 3 were they tied together, 4 was the one where he lost.
So is it 3 or 4?
You said where...
How many real-life matches did Stemple and Van Doren have before Stemple finally lost?
Before he finally lost. 3 matches before he lost.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. Whew.
Number 9. Who was the screenwriter for the quiz show?
Oh, screenwriter for this movie, Paul
Yep.
Atanasio.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. You won the show 21.
21.
21.
Number 10, and our final question.
All right, give it to me.
For what university was Van Doren a professor at?
Oh, crap. I'm not good at universities.
I wouldn't say it's your forte.
What if I give
But whose forte is it?
A mascot for the sports team at the university? How about that? No?
No. Was there a mascot in this film?
No.
Oh. How would you know that if you don't know the actual university?
I was just going to throw out some ridiculous mascots.
Gotcha. Okay.
Bulldogs.
No, I don't know what it was, so I wouldn't be able to help you with that.
Men wearing plaid.
Just name the university, my
Rowboatmen.
man.
Likely something Ivy League.
Likely,
right?
Yes.
Mr. America University.
Yeah, you nailed it.
1950s
Ding, 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 ding.
Smart Man University.
Yep. Woo, you got it again. The same thing.
All right, great.
No,
I don't remember what university he taught at.
Columbia University.
Okay. So I got what then?
9 out of 10.
Wrong? 9 out of 10?
You got 2 wrong?
Did I? I don't
No,
remember.
you didn't
No,
get 2 wrong.
the budget.
Oh, yeah. That technically you got wrong.
Yeah.
You got 8 out of 10,
8
right?
out of 10.
Pretty good.
That's not bad, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, now that I'm sweating, let's close down the lobby today, Leah.
Yes, let's do it.
I think we've had enough. I've had enough.
I've had enough.
I need to rest my brain. So, Leah, as we always end up, can you please tell the folks where best to find our wee podcast so they can keep interacting and chatting with us even after lobby hours?
Yeah, so you can find us at themovietheaterlobby.com, where you can find our videos, you can find links to all of our socials for the actual podcasts themselves.
Right.
You can go to The Movie Theater Lobby on Facebook and YouTube.
Perfect.
And The Movie Lobby, because there's a character limit,
Right.
on Instagram and Blue Sky.
All one word.
Yep. And you can also contact the podcast directly at themovietheaterlobby@gmail.com.
Perfect. So, with that put to bed, Leah, where else can our friends find you in particular?
So you can find me, Leah McClevey, at LM Nerd Room on all the previously mentioned socials, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, all those socials.
Right, of course.
And you can contact me directly at lmnerdroom@gmail.com.
Okay.
And Brandon, where can they find you?
Ooh, as for me, Brandon McClevey, just find me on Blue Sky. I don't think I've even checked my Facebook or Instagram in quite some time.
That's the best place to find you,
It is. Yeah, it really is. Find me on Blue Sky at BrandMC.
So much easier to find, too.
So much easier. Well, there we have it, Leah.
Yeah.
Another lobby meeting done.
A meeting adjourned.
Gone. Meeting adjourned.
Don't.
Get out of here, folks. Oh, Leah.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I have one final question for you.
Is this like a quiz question or just like a question?
I think you'll get this one.
Okay.
What is a simple phrase often used to show appreciation?
Thank you.
Indeed it is. Thank you to all of our friends and listeners who always so graciously give us their time and attention.
Yeah.
And Leah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
And bye-bye.
Bye.
You get me that panel show or I'm gonna bring you down with me, you lousy lying prick. You and Charles Van fucking Doren.
No, you're not.
I'll just tell everyone that it's a fraud. That'll warm them up. The fix is in this week on 21.
When's my next appointment?